Greetings, my good people of Scunville. Welcome to yet another edition of whatever the scun this is that you and I do here. In this video, we will be getting into details about the Guyana-Venezuela border controversy. And I want you to note that I said controversy, not dispute. We are not in a border dispute with Venezuela. Find out more in this video, but if you know you have a short attention span, don't bother. Go and watch a Steve Harvey Family Feud episode and stay dunce. For the rest of you, stay tuned.
Hey, something ever surprise you like when you see it, you gala what?
Before we get started, y'all know I like my likes. Press that thumbs up button. And if you're new to the skunks, press the red and white subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you can get updates when we post new videos. Now here's what you need to know about the Guyana-Venezuela border controversy. I will try to make this video as short as possible out of respect for your time, but bear with me. This thing goes all the way back to the 1600s when Guyana was first colonized by the Dutch. Essequibo, Demerara, and Berbice were three colonies that were exchanged between the Dutch and the British until they were all unified under the British to become British Guyana in 1831. During the 19th century, a dispute broke out between Great Britain and Venezuela over the location of the border between British Guyana and the Spanish-speaking Republic. In 1897, an arbitral tribunal was empaneled, which is just a fancy way of saying a court was formed to determine the border between British Guyana and Venezuela. The border was determined by the tribunal, and in 1905, representatives from British Guyana and Venezuela went and marked the border. It is important to note that British Guyana lost territory as a result of the arbitration, because this was the map of British Guyana before we gave up territory to the Venezuelans. When the new border was marked, then is when this map that we all know and love was drawn. At that point in 1905, everyone went home happy and the border dispute was settled. Y'all hear me, right? Let me repeat it for you. The border dispute between British Guyana and Venezuela was settled in 1905. Fast forward to February 1966, Venezuela catch a jumbie and say about how the 1899 arbitral award that settled the border location, which they themselves marked in 1905, was null and void, and but how they got cheated by the tribunal. Thank God I wasn't around at that time, because whoever dig up the story, they get in some hot knuckle in the mother scunt. Anyways, the British, being the pussies they are, signed an agreement known as the Geneva Agreement to allow Venezuela the opportunity to prove their claims that they were cheated at the tribunal. And again, I want you to note, the border dispute was not reopened in 1966, which is why at the beginning of this video, I referred to the issue as the border controversy and not a border dispute. It is important that Guyanese understand the difference. In that same year, in May 1966, Guyana gained its independence from the British and inherited the Geneva Agreement. The controversy went into hibernation for over 50 years until, guess what? ExxonMobil discovered oil offshore Guyana. Hola! People, listen to me carefully. I know some of you may not like the person I'm about to bring on this next half of the video, but I think it's important for you to get first-hand information. And there is no one in a better position to tell you what happened from 2016 other than the dog himself. Please people, I know he party rig and he got one or two bad ways. But even if it's just this one time, I want you to trust him to explain the Venezuela session, because he was the sitting president of Guyana until 2020. Watch.
We also had a decree from Venezuela again in 2015. Within a short period of my getting into office in May 2015, President Maduro issued decree number 1787. And last year, January, they issued another decree, 4415, again claiming the maritime area. That is the area, the zone from which we are getting our petroleum. So Venezuela has a focus, it has a fixation, it has an obsession with Guyana's maritime zone. And that is why we need to go to court. Venezuela continued to harass us. They violated our land space, our sea space, our air space. They deployed troops and anti-aircraft missiles on the border near to Etringbang and the Cuney River and the Venamu River. They launched armed gunboats against us. Military helicopters landed at Kaikan on the Venamu. They fired on boats carrying unarmed civilian personnel from the Geology and Mines Commission. They seized the Technic Perdana, which was a petroleum exploration vessel in 2013. This was like 6 weeks after President Maduro visited President Ramatar here in Georgetown. They seized, as soon as he got back home, the Venezuelan Navy seized a petroleum exploration vessel unarmed, which was conducting petroleum exploration in our EEZ. And later on, they seized another research vessel called the Ramform Tets in 2018, which had been conducting petroleum exploration in our economic zone. And apart from that, there have been other seizures. Sometimes they seize fishing vessels. Up to last year, they overfly Etringbang with impunity, using their fighter jets, violating our airspace. So over the years, we've been faced with rebellion, we've been faced with harassment, we've been faced with seizures, we've been faced by attacks from what they call sindicatos, criminal gangs. People in the hinterland complain about it. They bring across illegal migrants, crime and disease into our country. Over the years, Venezuela has never changed its strategic objectives. On the 10 presidents, they have remained focused on not only the maritime zone, but on ensuring that this controversy should not go to court. That is why we are where we are at present. A well-known Venezuelan foreign minister called Miguel Angel Burelli Rivas coined what I would call the Burelli doctrine. He said all solutions should be bilateral. Now, this is not as simple and as innocent as it sounds. Venezuela does not want the territorial controversy to go to legal arbitration. It wants to sit down and talk across the table with Guyana. Why do they want to do this? Because in bilateral discussion, they can offer incentives, inducements. And this is what has gotten at least two of our leaders in trouble. Under this Burelli doctrine, they proposed joint development of Essequibo. Can you imagine? Our territory, they're proposing joint development. They're offering cheap electricity from the Guri Dam. They offer funding for the Upper Mazruni hydropower project. They must control, And in addition for these inducements, for these offers, they want the Salida al Atlántico. They want to get access to the Atlantic. So Burelli doctrine is a device to keep the controversy out of the law, out of the courts, and hope that they can get people across the table in Guyana who can be persuaded by several types of inducements. And as you know, over the years, they have proposed, debt write-offs, Petrocaribe, rice purchases. They've built this Chavez Center in West Coast Babis. These are all gifts to soften us up. And unfortunately, some of our leaders were taken in by these inducements and actually considered giving Venezuela what they were asking for. That is a part of Guyana's coast, so they can get access to the Atlantic. Over the years, several Venezuelan presidents have visited Guyana. Carlos Andres Perez, always smiling. We remember him, he came as early as 1978. Jaime Lucinchi, Hugo Chavez, hugging and kissing babies. But they were all very serious about this Burelli doctrine. Even up to 2013, under President Ramatar, President Nicolas Maduro came here. And they're offering to finance projects, infrastructure and other projects in Guyana in exchange for that bit of Guyana's coast, the Salida al Atlántico. So we must be careful. Our presidents have gone to Venezuela as well. President Burnham went, President Hoyt went, President Chedi Jagan went. But when President Janet Jaga went, she went in a Venezuelan Air Force jet. You heard me right. She went in a Venezuelan Air Force jet with a huge team of about 16 ministers and other persons. And she was given the order of the liberator because, well, I don't know the reason, but this happened. All I'm saying is that Venezuela has been able over the years to use different forms of inducement to persuade or convince or coerce Guyanese leaders to take kindly to their request for an access to the Atlantic, salida al Atlántico. We have been aware of the policy of Venezuelans, the inducements, and even though we were supposed to abide by certain conditions under the Geneva Agreement of 1966 and under the Protocol of Port Spain of 1970, we realized that these bilateral talks were going nowhere, and Venezuela was simply using them to delay the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is for Venezuela to recognize what happened in 1899, that all of this territory they're claiming is Guyanese property. So from 1989, we were able to go back to the United Nations Secretary General, and we got agreement for a good officer to be appointed. And the first one was Alistair McIntyre, who, as you know, was the former Chancellor of the University of Guyana. He's a Grenadian. And then Mr. Oliver Jackman took over. He's a Barbadian in 1999. And then a Jamaican, Norman Gay-Ravan, took over in 2010. Now, the Venezuelan regarded these as harmless because they were all English-speaking. They were all from the Anglophone Caribbean. But Venezuela had no intention of resolving the conflict. So it was talk. And in the meantime, Venezuela was hoping that we would get fed up and do something stupid. Well, it didn't happen. By the time I became president, I realized that the good officer process was barren, it was futile, and in my interaction with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and also Guterres, I pointed out that the good officer process was bankrupt, it was going nowhere, and we needed to go to court. Mr. Guterres appointed a personal representative, Norwegian, called Dag Nylander. And well, that didn't go very far because I don't want to discuss his perceptions, but his perception didn't coincide with the law, with the fact that this matter had been settled, and he was not going to reopen a controversy that had been settled by arbitral tribunal since 1899. In any event, I'm happy to say that the President of the United Nations Secretary General decided that the controversy must be sent to the ICJ. And in January 2018, I was so happy to receive a letter. And since then, 2018 now to February 2022, we have been working, although the government has been changed, we've been working to ensure that the matter is presented in the best possible light by the best possible team to the ICJ. But even so, Venezuela's policy remains unchanged. Venezuela has resisted, resolution by the ICJ. Even in December 2020, when the ICJ ruled that it had jurisdiction, Venezuela refused to accept that, objected, and felt that all solutions should be bilateral. They wanted to go back to the barren good officers process. Well, we are not going there. Next month, we're going to court. And I call on all Guyanese to support the Republic of Guyana in taking this issue to a court. It concerns us all. It concerns our children. It concerns the country that we inherited and the country we wish to bequeath to our children and grandchildren.
Well, if you didn't know, now you know. Additionally, Venezuelans have a well-articulated policy regarding the Essequibo, and the young kids are taught in school that the Essequibo belongs to them. It is a national lie being told to Venezuelans. But if you ask most Guyanese on the streets what they know about the border controversy, all they could tell you is, not a blade of grass. I want to hot jump lashing at your mother's cunt. I need you to help me get this video shared as much as possible so Guyanese could properly understand this issue. This is another video I think you should watch that relates to this one. My name is Mudwata. Boom out!
Hold up.